Shalom to the elect of Yasha Allah, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the hopeful elect. You so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, West Indian, and Haitians. Gotta give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakah, Korash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, and the sincere salutations to all the archon pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Akwa who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming at you with another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. Now this is a true news video. Rick Wiles go in. These devils is passing a law for the LGBT, man. I'm talking about on every level of wickedness. This is a very edifying video, man, from True News. So Lord's willing, let's be edifying.
You're watching True News. I'm Rick Wiles. The radical leftist U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill last month that few American citizens know made it through the House. Few Americans know about the extremely radical legislation that was passed last month by Nancy Pelosi's radical Democrats. It is deceptively labeled the Equality Act, but it should be called the Sodom and Gomorrah Normalization Act. The Equality Act will establish federal protection for homosexuals, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgendered persons. If the bill's critics are correct, it will be the end of religious freedom in America as churches and ministries and religiously owned corporations are compelled by the federal government to admit homosexuals and transgender members as members of the church and perform same-sex marriages in churches. The bill is now in the Republican-controlled U.S. Senate. Can American Christians take for granted that the Republicans will not pass the legislation? Can American Christians take for granted that President Donald Trump would not sign an amended bill worked out in conference between the House and Senate negotiators? Can American Christians take for granted that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are not pressuring Donald Trump to support this radical bill? We're talking about it today on True News. Doc Burkhart and Edward Zoll are here to examine some of the most radical and frightening aspects of the LGBT Equality Act. Gentlemen, this bill clearly is the most radical piece of legislation I've ever seen passed by any chamber of the House of Representatives in my lifetime.
And it's kind of slid under the radar, hasn't it?
It sure did. And very few people knew that it made it through the House. And it's now in the Senate. The bill supporters are accusing Mitch McConnell of bottling up the bill, putting it on a shelf in the Senate. But I don't trust the Republicans. I absolutely do not trust them. And I will not rule out the possibility that they pass an amended version of this bill that President Trump would sign at the urging of his daughter, Ivanka Trump, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So we're going to talk about some of the more frightening aspects of this bill. But before we get there, I just want to remind people how America got to this position, where we're at today. Back in 1987, so let's see, Ronald Reagan was still president of the United States. Right? America was still in its glory days, the final stage of his glory days under Ronald Reagan. And a homosexual activist with the group ACT UP, his name Steve Warren, he wrote in The Advocate, which is a gay rights publication, in 1987. Listen to what he said. This is 22 years ago. Actually, 32 years ago. 32 years ago. He said, quote, Henceforth, homosexuality will be spoken of in your churches and synagogues as an honorable estate. You can either let us marry people of the same sex, or better yet, abolish marriage altogether. You will be expected to offer ceremonies that bless our sexual arrangements. You will also instruct your people in homosexual as well as heterosexual behavior, and you will go out of your way to make certain that homosexual youths are allowed to date, attend religious functions together, openly display affection, and enjoy each other's sexuality without embarrassment or guilt. If any of the older people in your midst object, you will deal with them sternly, making certain they renounce their ugly and ignorant homophobia or suffer public humiliation. You will also make certain that laws are passed forbidding discrimination against homosexuals and heavy punishments are assessed. Finally, we will, in all likelihood, want to expunge a number of passages from your scriptures and rewrite others, eliminating preferential treatment of marriage and using words that will allow for homosexual interpretation of passages describing biblical lovers such as Ruth and Boaz, or Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Now they going off on that. People who wrote that crap. Now they say they're going to remove scriptures out of the Bible that condemns homosexuality, man, transgender, bisexual, lesbian, okay, pedophilia, all of it, man. This is Deuteronomy 22 and verse 5, and it reads, "The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man," meaning pants. A woman should not wear no damn pants. "The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garments. For all that do so are abomination unto the Lord Yahweh thy power." Going to Leviticus 20 and verse 13. And it reads, "If a man also lie with mankind, as he lied with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them." These are the verses they want to remove from the Bible. Okay? And they tell you that same thing that Leviticus 20 and 13 says. The same thing is in Romans, the first chapter. Okay? Starting at verse 24 to 28, man. They say the same exact thing. These devils, man. Hey, they pushing it, man. We almost out of here, man.
Warning, if all these things do not come to pass quickly, we will subject Orthodox Jews and Christians to the most sustained hatred and vilification in memory. We have captured the liberal establishment and the press. We have already beaten you on a number of battlefields. You have neither the faith nor the strength to fight us, so you might as well surrender now.
Now, was that did he write that in 67 or 87?
87.
87. Okay.
1987, in the Advocate. 32 years ago,
Wow.
It was a declaration of war on the churches. And he clearly told the American Christians what the homosexual radicals were going to do to the country. And specifically the churches. If you dare oppose us, we will subject you to the worst hatred and vilification in memory.
And it looks like they followed the game plan pretty well, haven't they?
They've accomplished it. You've got to give them credit. They won the war. The cultural war is over. The homosexuals won the war. America was paganized. We became a pagan country in just over 32 years. And it was done through the media, through education, through the court system. They had a coordinated strategy, and they followed through with it with precision, and it worked. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and I don't have a copy of the book here right now. Steve Warren's Homosexual Manifesto was 1987. 2 years later, there was a book published, 1989. It was called After the Ball. There's the book right there. How America Will Conquer Its Fear and Hatred of Gays in the 90s. It was written by Marshall Kirk, who was a Harvard-educated neuropsychiatry expert. Hunter Manston was a marketing professional, Madison Avenue marketing professional. And these two men came together using neuropsychiatry and Madison Avenue public relations and advertising principles, and they merged it together
To reprogram America.
to reprogram the thinking of the American people to not only cease resisting the homosexual movement, but to embrace it.
And to exalt it.
And now we're to the point it's being exalted. And so in that book, they laid out a plan for homosexuals to repackage the movement and to go mainstream, to look normal, and to make heterosexuals abnormal.
Right.
Well, here we are today. And we have reached that stage right now. We're at that place. Now, I'm going to skip back because I want to.
Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That's what he just said, man. They saying if you heterosexual, something wrong with you. But if you a homosexual, transgender, a lesbian, a bisexual, pedophile, then you good. Esau has turned things upside down, man.
I think this is the appropriate time. On record right now, former Vice President Joe Biden is on record endorsing the LGBT Equality Act, promising that if he's elected president, he will sign it.
Yes, he said this just on June 1st, only a couple of days ago, at the Human Rights Campaign dinner in Columbus, Ohio. Now this, as he said, Rick, that not only will he make sure this passes the Senate, but it'll be his first act. If he's elected president, he will make sure the Equality Act becomes the law of the land.
His first act.
His first act.
All right, think about it. So here's a man running for president. He's saying the very first thing that the Biden administration will do will be to pass and sign into law the most extreme, radical, sexual liberation bill ever passed in the United States of America, which will end Christianity as we know it.
We actually have a clip of the former vice president actually saying these words.
Saying this at this event?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 16.
Good. Let's watch it.
28 states, as you know, you can still be fired for being gay. 30 states for being transgender. That's why we need the Equality Act that just passed the House.
These Edomites is wicked, man.
Support, I might add.
These Edomites is wicked, man.
I endorsed over 120 candidates, campaigned for 68 of them. I believe that's the exact number. And folks, we elected 41 folks who didn't have to be radical about anything. They beat Republicans in districts. They went out and they beat them in the districts, and they talked about basic fundamental rights, and you supported them, and the community came out. You know, that's the difference in electing a Democratic House makes. Now we need to elect a Democratic Senate that will pass it.
Wicked ass Edomites,
I'm
man.
sure I know different than anyone else, but I promise you, if I'm elected president, that'll be the first thing I ask to be done. You will send a message around the world, not just at home.
When the year that I was born, which was 1953, I was born in August of 53, but in January of 53, General Dwight D. Eisenhower was sworn in as President of the United States. And the very first thing that Dwight D. Eisenhower did in his inauguration speech was to lead America in a prayer to God for God's blessing to be upon the nation. The first thing Joe Biden will do will be to pass a bill legalizing what the Bible calls an abomination.
Abomination.
How did we get this far in 66 years? Now, I'm going to show you. This is going to send a lot of people through the roof, but I'm going to quote Joe Biden. Because I want to put up on the screen number 17. And this is a 2013 Times of Israel newspaper article. Times of Israel. Joe Biden said, the truth is that Jewish heritage, Jewish culture, Jewish values are such an essential part of who we are that it's fair to say that Jewish heritage is American heritage. Now, do we have the rest of this quote, or did we miss it? Okay, so we don't have that up on this. Okay, so this is a speech that Joe Biden gave in 2013 during the Jewish American Heritage Month. And he was extolling the fact that American values and Jewish values are synonymous, right, which is what I've been saying for quite some time, saying this is why America has become so anti-God. So Joe Biden, I'm quoting Joe Biden, he said in that speech, quote, it wasn't anything we legislatively did, talking about the politicians. It was Will and Grace, the TV show. It was social media. Literally, that's what changed people's attitudes. Joe Biden went on to say, think behind of all that. I bet you 85% of those changes, whether it's in Hollywood or social media, are a consequence of Jewish leaders in the industry.
Right.
The influence is immense. And he went on to commend the Jewish power brokers of Hollywood for changing the way America thinks about same-sex marriage and homosexuality.
He goes on to say, Jewish heritage has shaped who we are, all of us, me, as much or more than any other factor in the last 223 years. That's a fact.
So you can call
That's
me.
a fact.
He said it's a fact. I'm quoting Joe Biden. Joe Biden said America changed his thinking about homosexuality because of Jewish culture in America.
That's exactly what he said.
Now he's about to become president of the United States. And the first thing he's going to do is sign into law the most radical homosexual bill ever passed in the United States of America. Why has it made it this far? Because of Zionism in America.
Right.
That's a fact. You can get as mad as you want. I'm just telling you the facts. This is the truth.
It's what Joe Biden believes.
He believes it. And he boasted of it during a speech before American Jews during Jewish Heritage Month, commending them for using their power and influence with the media to change the thinking of the American people. So you go back to that book that laid out the manifesto. They were going to use Madison Avenue marketing techniques and neuropsychiatry to change the way Americans think. This is what was done to this country over 30-some years. This is why we're in this deplorable mess right now. We've become a pagan nation that deserves God's judgment.
And there's so much that Hollywood Jews, the media in general, have done to sexualize this nation. Think about it. Come on.
Why is this a pagan nation? Because this is the pagan Roman Empire all over again. Okay? This is Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. North America has become Sodom and Egypt. Okay? like you had Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed in the other cities. So when you look at who's pushing this the most, man, a couple of cities come to mind when you think about Sodom and Gomorrah in the ancient time. Two of the cities that I feel, California is Sodom or Gomorrah, and New York is Sodom or Gomorrah, man. California and New York is the main two states that pushes LGBTQ. Now it's everywhere in every state, but what's the main two cities? Sodom and Gomorrah, California and New York, man. Okay? This is spiritually Egypt and Sodom, man. The Lord say that which was shall be again is nothing new under the sun, man. And then you got a president, you got an Edomite dude who's running for president, and he is a homosexual. He's married to a man, and he's running to be president. What if that devil get the presidency? It's all part of prophecy. This is showing you where we are heading at, man. North America is finished, man. Done.
Habitation before marriage. This was something that was unthinkable. Maybe even 30 years ago. That was done through media. Friends, for example, a very famous show in the 90s, this was pushed through that show.
Oh, what? Abortion?
Abortion,
all these things.
we
All
detail
pushed
that.
through
Tremendous value.
through entertainment, movies, games, music, magazines. They pushed an immoral culture that is in direct opposition to Almighty God, who is holy. These people are in opposition to God. This isn't that they have a different viewpoint. They are in opposition to God. They are the enemies of God.
So we truly have adopted Judeo-Christian values, mainly Judeo.
But they're not Christian. We've adopted Judeo values. The Christian values are out the window. The modern day Christian values in America are Zionized.
Right.
So that's why the church in America is silent. They can't react to any of this. They have no battle plan because they've been put to sleep.
Yes.
So yeah, let's talk about this bill. What Nancy Pelosi managed to get through the House. It wasn't very hard for her to get it through the House. Okay, so basically the bill is amending the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yes,
which was passed to ban discrimination against Black Americans.
And what they're doing now is they're redefining basically anyone who is homosexual, lesbian, gay, transsexual, bisexual as a protected class.
Or even thinking about changing their gender.
Yes. It is now as let's say as paramount, as protected as your race, your ethnicity. You know, the bill.
Now, did you hear what he said? I gotta play that back. Gotta play that back. Let me play it back.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yes,
which was passed to ban discrimination against Black Americans.
And what they're doing now is they're redefining basically anyone who is homosexual, lesbian, gay, transsexual, bisexual as a protected class.
Or even thinking about changing their gender.
Yes. It is now as let's say as paramount, as protected as your race, your ethnicity. You know, the bill actually notes that based on sex, sexual orientation, gender identity in areas including public accommodations and facilities, education, federal funding, employment, housing, credit, and the jury system, this will protect the rights of LGBT Americans.
How far does it go? Listen to some of these things. Sex-specific domestic violence centers and homeless shelters would be banned.
So you couldn't have a women's shelter? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Why aren't women up in arms about that?
Because they don't know. They don't know what's coming. They have no idea. The media has not. Obviously, the media is controlled by the synagogue of Satan. They're not going to tell
Which
you
is elite.
what's coming.
Like he just said.
Are clueless. John Hagee's not going to go out and tell anybody what
the media is controlled by the Rothschilds, the elite bankers.
Locker rooms, sex-specific locker rooms in public schools
Gone.
will be eliminated.
Let's go to showers too.
Because schools under federal education funding
Right.
will not be able to qualify for public funding from the federal government if they have segregated restrooms and showers and locker rooms. They will have to be open to all genders. Showers, restroom facilities would be outlawed. Any place of, now this is the key phrase here, public accommodation. Anything that's labeled a public accommodation would fall under this law. So if a facility is open to the public, it automatically is subject to this law. Now, where are they going with this? They're going to declare churches as public accommodations.
They should lock you. These Edomites is pushing a act, man, a LGBT equal act, man. Okay? This is not nothing equal, man. This is wicked to be an homosexual, a transgender, a lesbian, a bisexual. It is wicked, man. This is Romans chapter 1 and verse 24. It said, wherefore power also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of power into a lie, and worship and serve a creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. It says, for this cause power gave them up to unvile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise, meaning, again, it say, for this cause, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah gave them up to vile affection, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, meaning a woman not being with a man, it's women with women, okay, lesbians. And likewise also the men leaving the natural use of the woman, burning in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves, it said receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was met. Was they receiving in themselves? Men working, it said men with men working that which is unseemly, meaning it was wicked, uncommon, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which is what? Men's popping other men's, putting their rod in each other, man. Wicked, man. Okay? And even as they did not like to retain power in their knowledge, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness. Okay? All unrighteousness, man. Let me try to run this back, because I want to get a little bit more of this. I don't know why Esau playing with me. I gotta get a little more of this lesson, man. So what I'm gonna do, click this. So lock you just
Accommodations. Why?
Okay, there you go.
Because churches open their doors every Sunday to the public.
Right. That's true.
And they welcome anybody to come in.
Visitors.
Not visitors. Yes. So if you welcome a visitor in, you've automatically, the very first time a church allows a visitor in the door, they're immediately under the public accommodation section of this law.
And Rick, also if they rent out the building
Yes.
for any period of time, if they open it up, for example, to be a voting station during
That's
elections.
a good point. Yes, a lot of churches are used at election time for voting.
Right.
So if they're used by the city or county for any purpose like that, if they allow the Little League team to use the church, baseball field, that's public accommodation. You rent out the picnic grounds on the church. You allow a wedding to take place. Somebody who's not a member of the church, you've automatically made the church a public accommodation.
Wow. Now that could radically change the way we look at church in America.
Absolutely. But you know what? God wisely warned me years ago. And the Constitution and bylaws of this church, Flowing Streams, specifically states that we are not a public accommodation. And I will fight these pagan monsters to the end. Over my dead body will I succumb to their tyranny. Never, never. I will not do it, Doc.
What impact will this have, like, on Christian schools, Christian colleges, things like
They're
that?
all under it. They're all under this act. Let me tell you what Christian schools. Most likely, federal judges will allow the schools
that
to
could radically change the way we look at church in America.
Absolutely. But you know what? God wisely warned me years ago. And the Constitution and bylaws of this church, Flowing Streams, specifically states that we are...
So lock you, man. I'm having a problem with my trying to get this together. I want this to play, man. This is very edifying information, man.
We're not a public accommodation. And I will fight these pagan monsters to the end. Over my dead body will I succumb to their tyranny. Never, never. I will not do it, Doc.
What impact will this have, like, on Christian schools, Christian colleges, things like that?
They're all under it. They're all under this act. Let me tell you what Christian schools. Most likely, federal judges will allow the schools to hire people who teach a religion class, not math, not English,
Not science.
science. If the teacher is teaching a class on Christianity, or if the teacher is a chaplain, then the Christian school will be allowed to only hire Christians. But the Christian school would not be allowed to bar homosexuals and transgenders and transvestites from being teachers in a Christian school.
This is Genesis chapter 9 and starting at verse 12. And it reads, And Power said, This is the token of the covenant which I made between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, meaning the rainbow, okay? And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow, the rainbow, shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it that I may remember the everlasting covenant between power and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. Okay? Now, the reason I brought this out because he said he put a bow in the cloud. He told Noah this would be the sign that when you see, you gonna know when you see this, I will never flood the earth with water anymore. These devils, this damn LGBTQ, they have taken the rainbow or the bow and made it their logo for the LGBTQ movement, man. This is wicked, man.
Doc, the barbarians are at the gate of the church, and the church doesn't even know it. Well, what about the gates now?
What about those instances where there's like a gender-specific role of some kind?
They're wiped out. All gender's wiped out now, Doc. There's no more gender in this tyranny. There's no more gender. In fact, if you insist on it, you're going to be a criminal.
And they'll treat you as in the period of segregation. They'll say that you're trying to bring back a segregation or trying to maintain a segregation era mentality.
That's exactly it. You're going to be accused of being a segregationist, a sexual segregationist.
Wow.
Let's see what else they have.
This is Isaiah 24 verse 10. The city of confusion. That's what Babylon means, confusion. The word Babel means confusion, man. The same thing Nimrod doing, that's the same thing these devils doing now. Isaiah 24:10. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets, meaning the truth. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. Okay? And this place is going to be destroyed, man. Because everybody doing now is mirth, happiness, joyful times, man. And the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. This is all fucking wickedness, man.
Here.
Adoption agencies.
Yes.
So if, for example, here, a lot of adoption agencies are actually run by Christians or churches. They will refer out if a same-sex couple comes to them trying to adopt a child. They say, no, we don't accommodate for this because of our religious beliefs. This Equality Act it will bring no equality here. It will force them to either go out of business or help find a child for a home-based
Equality Act.
Christian
The LGBT Equality Act.
Agencies would be barred from
These devils done lost their mind, man.
preferring to place children with a biological female mother and
Folly
biological
is set in
male
great
father.
dignity, man.
They would be barred.
Wow.
All right. They will be labeled as discriminatory. They will be shut down by the federal government.
Well, it said Daniels, they would think to change time and laws, man.
This is already fact of life in Canada.
England, too.
England, Mexico. There was an orphanage that this ministry supported for many years. They were put out of business in Mexico, Christian orphanage. They were put out of business because Mexico was a signatory to the United Nations, some treaty with the child and on human sexuality, and Mexico required the orphanage to adopt a LGBT mentality, and the orphanage shut down. That was just a couple of years ago, Mexico. So it's now coming to the United States of America through this legislation. Well, this gets worse, Doc. I mean, we're only at the beginning of this. If you go to the hospital, you cannot request a male-only hospital room, and your wife cannot request a female-only hospital room. If a man wants to be in the room that if your wife is in a room that's shared by other people, and a man wants to be in that room, your wife will not be able to prohibit a male patient sleeping in that room.
That just blows my mind, Rick.
But these are the perverts that are running America now. They're perverts.
The Rothschild.
We've been taken over by
It
perverts.
And this institutionalizes the perversion.
Hey, this Edomites is mad, man.
Influence of America. Let's lay it on the table. Joe Biden said it. I don't want to question Joe Biden.
Perverts control America, man. Pedophiles, man.
Without the Jewish influence in Hollywood.
Devils.
Joe Biden. We now have Jewish values running America.
What if I don't agree?
Hey, Rick Wiles say America is ran by pedophiles, man. Okay, perverts, man.
What if let's say someone is identifying themselves as
and that's
a
facts.
woman. It's a guy, but he's identifying himself as a woman. And I say, you're not a woman. You're a guy.
Well, you might be punished. You might be put in jail. You'll be
punished.
I'll be punished for speaking the truth?
Yes. Using the wrong noun.
There are already cases in Great Britain and Canada of people losing their jobs and actually being fined and investigated by the police for insisting that a transgendered person is the original sex that they were born. You know, somebody that says that they're now a woman, but they were a man, and you insist on calling that person a male. There are people already who've lost their jobs, who have been investigated by police agencies.
Well, it's very
happening.
Good Morning Britain had a case a few months ago where one of the hosts used the original pronoun of an individual. It aired, and the British government went after. They thought about actually prosecuting the program for their uncorrection. It actually aired a mispronunciation of the pronoun of this basically transsexual.
Normal people have no comprehension how far this is going. Their target is to eliminate the Christian church. Make no mistake about this. This is a spiritual war. This has nothing to do with civil rights. It has nothing to do with equality. It is a spiritual war against the holy church of God. That's what we're facing. And the church in this country is in a coma. They don't know what's happening.
That's that deep sleep,
and
man.
They're being led by pastors that don't have any backbone, who are afraid to speak.
That's why Revelation 11:8 say, and their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of that great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, man. Everybody is dead here, man. Dead.
Distracted by other things.
Yes. Look what happened the other day in Rhode Island. A Catholic priest tweeted that Catholics should not support the Gay Pride Parade, which is all over America this month, right? He said, you know, if you're a Catholic, you shouldn't be supporting gay pride parades. They unleashed the hounds of hell on that priest. And by the end of that day, this is just last week, by the end of the day, that priest was retracting his words, apologizing that he had offended people. He was sorry. His Catholic hierarchy reprimanded him. He knew what was going to happen. He's going to get reassigned to a parish in Siberia. Except the Russians don't allow the Catholic Church there.
Antarctica.
Antarctica, you know. But the point is that most pastors back down. They retract their words. Pastors are afraid of controversy. They're terrified of controversy. And these perverts know it. It's part of a psychological campaign. We'll terrorize them. We'll threaten them. They'll back down. We know they'll back down because they're afraid of confrontation. And so they just keep advancing and pushing and advancing. And now they're at the door of the church, and the barbarians are coming in to tell you how to run the church. And if you don't do it their way, they're going to take you to prison. They're going to shut you down. They're going to force you to submit to their sexual perversion.
And that's why all the churches
God, against Christ,
had a 501c3 charter.
It is hell itself fighting the church of God.
And if the churches go against the elites,
supports this legislation,
and their covenant that they made with them,
on the side of Satan,
they're going to lose everything,
absolutely,
man.
in direct opposition to the holy God who is the creator of this universe,
Which is Yahweh.
There's no middle ground. No middle ground. Listen, look, Doc, you know me, you work here with me. I would not mistreat anybody. I don't care what their behavior is, their views. I would treat all people. I treat people respectfully. I don't mistreat anybody. But I am not going to be ordered to change my views and my speech and my behavior to submit to something that my Bible, my God, says is in direct opposition to the law of God.
Right.
That's real.
In reality, this Equality Act is actually the Unequality Act, because it makes the gay and lesbian community more equal than everybody else. It's like
LGBT
straight out of
Equality
the animal
Act.
farm. It makes
And
Christians
these
more
are
equal
straight
than others.
It makes
devils,
Christians
man.
unequal.
That's right.
Makes us a minority, a segregated actually population based on.
And they passed this bill, man. They passed it.
Except Christians.
It's called the LGBT
All right, how about the
Equality
TSA,
Act.
Transportation Security Agency at the airport? All right, so if you've ever experienced the full TSA security check,
The luxury check.
a luxury check where they pat you down, okay? I've had it happen a couple times almost. Well, thought I was going to get in a lot of trouble one time, and I kept telling the TSA person, no, you're not going to put your hands where you think you're going to put your hands. They brought a supervisor out, all right? I told him, I said, I will have you charged with sexual assault, okay? And it got pretty intense, okay? But if you've never had this happen to you, as of right now, if the TSA is going to pat down a passenger, if the passenger is male, then the TSA agent is male. If the passenger is female, the TSA agent is female.
The corresponding gender.
Yes. Under this law,
It's all out the window. It could be
Yes.
a female patting down a man, or someone claiming to be a man.
or a
patting down-
transvestite,
Yes.
and including your daughter, your son. If a male agent wants to pat down your 14-year-old daughter in the airport, he will be able to do it, and you can't do anything about it. This is how perverted and twisted this society has become.
We're giving rights to basically child
Surely the
molesters
turning
at this
of
point.
things are
Child
upside
molesting
down,
in
man.
We have sexual deviants who have overthrown the United States of America.
Everything is turned upside down.
This is Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes, it is.
Dimitri Duduman say, the Romanian pastor, 1980s, America is Sodom and Gomorrah. It will burn. In this country, if the American people do not get their senses and repent and return to God, this nation will burn.
It'll burn, man.
Is
It's
this
gonna
all
burn.
It's a done deal.
No. Oh, Doc, we're not done. We're not done. Oh, there's more. Oh, this goes on. We just scratched the surface here. All right. Teachers monitoring school locker rooms and bathrooms in elementary schools. You could have a man in the restroom with the girls in elementary school. A male teacher could be monitoring the girls in an elementary school in the restroom or in a locker. The boys in high school taking a shower, female teacher could be in the gym shower room with the naked boys as they're showering. Thanks to the Democrats and the perverts and the Zionists in this country and Hollywood, this is where we're going, folks. Health insurance companies will have to include sex change coverage, so employers will have to pay for sex change insurance coverage.
This is huge.
Yes.
One of the biggest, obstacles for a lot of people who are thinking about transitioning, that's the word for changing your sex right now, changing your gender, is the cost. The cost right now could be in the tens of thousands. This would make it something that could be part of your job. And I'm sure you get maybe a paid leave in addition to this.
Yes. Doc was asking earlier about, saying the wrong pronoun on a transgendered person. So you could be charged with misgendering.
Jude chapter 1, verse 7. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, meaning doing the same thing, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, and set forth for an example suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. North America gonna be destroyed, man.
But it doesn't make any sense. They are who they're born, right?
Take your filthy hands off of me, you apes. You know where we're at? We're in the Planet of the Apes.
Really?
I mean, this is like Charlton Heston.
It's
living
exactly
in
what it
Planet of
is.
the Apes. The normal people are being taken over by sexual perverts.
Yes.
These are the last days of a dying nation. Look around, America. Get a good look of it while it's still here before it goes up in smoke. These are the last days
Yes, it is.
of a pagan nation before it burns to the ground. This is it, Doc. How low will this go? How far? How deep into debauchery will America go before it burns?
Well, we're beyond that limit. This is at the